Hey, this is Chris Saunders, a part of the CT Sports Talent Show, and I'm pleased to have Vaughn from Old Saybrook, his sixth year with the program, fourth as a head coach. Chris Perras is with me. Coach, I appreciate you coming on, and also real quick, also forgot to mention the boys basketball head coach, and that's why I have him on here to be able to preview the program. Coach, I appreciate you coming on.
Chris, thanks for having me, man. Really appreciate it.
It's we're getting to that time. I know I'm preparing for the state championship games for football. Potentially we'll have one to possibly two to maybe three games to call next week. And I'm looking forward to that. But basketball will be on the horizon. I'll have one day off on Sunday, and then I start right back up with Holy Cross and Mercy. So that's going to be a fun little game on the girls' basketball side on the 11th, and that will be at Holy Cross. But Coach, you guys, as far as the boys, have just started. The girls started a couple days prior. They started a little bit earlier, but the boys have just started. As far as kind of with how this season could potentially be, you and I were just talking about the fouls, the shot clock. I know there's other little things, though, tiny things with the game. Just kind of give me your thoughts. I mean, are you juiced up for this season? After what happened last year, you guys were the eighth seed in Division Five.
So last year, and we had some adversity last year. We started off pretty good.
Mhm.
Guys were healthy. We were playing really, really well. Um, we get into January, and that's where we hit a little wall here.
Mhm.
A couple of starters went down. Our point guard had mono. Our starting three man, he broke his ankle in a game against Cromwell.
Mhm.
Uh, one of our, other, five, 6 man, he had a back injury that he's always battled.
Mhm.
So we're kind of like, okay, how can we hold this thing together? Guys stepped up. We didn't finish the season obviously as well as we wanted, but those guys that had to step up in that situation, those are the guys that we're looking towards this year.
Mhm.
So while at the time it was tough, and we had a nice thing going,
Mhm.
uh, they gained some experience that's now going to help us. And there was a lot of sophomores at the time. Now they're juniors. But any time you're the eighth seed, fortunately we were able to get a bye last year.
Mhm.
Um, we played Coventry in the second round at our place, put some things together, and then we ended up losing to the eventual champ, Windsor Locks. Well coached, good game plan. They had some guys that could battle, and we ended up losing by 10. You're never satisfied with a loss, and especially at that time of year. But 10 points to the eventual champion, we're looking at it like, where did it get away? And we see different points in the game where, we needed to get those 2 rebounds. We don't want to make this pass. It's a forced pass, led to a turnover. That's 10 points. You
Mhm.
put it that way, it makes that game a lot closer,
Mhm.
right? So 10 points really it doesn't feel like 10
Mhm.
when you go back and look at it. So these guys know this. But this year, it's kind of a mystery. We've
Mhm.
lost 5 of our top 6 from last year.
Well,
So I did out the calculations. It's 53 points a game.
that's
Anytime you lose
yeah,
5 of the top 6,
yeah.
okay, all right. It's a mystery, and that's what makes it fun. Like, you always look forward to something every year. You got stud guys coming back. You
Mhm.
know, this year it's the mystery in the potential that we have. Like, the ceiling is going to be pretty high for our guys because they have that experience
Mhm.
from last year. And it's a lot of teaching too. So I found a little bit of a different joy
Mhm.
this year, based on it. Again, it's all related to things that happened last year and how the guys are coming in this year. I
Mhm.
mentioned before, the soccer players are huge, and we've got a few of those guys. They just came off their fifth in a row state championship.
Yeah,
They know how to win. They understand the game, bringing that culture in.
yeah.
It's always good.
And if it wasn't for COVID, they probably would have won six if you really think about it, because there wasn't a season because of
You're
that.
right. Yeah,
So
you're right.
then Waters would have another ring, which would make
Another
15.
one to shine right in my face.
Yeah, another one for the hands, the toes, and at some point he may just have to start putting them on his ears because he's running out of room. You know,
Right. I saw him last week at the school. I said, "How many is that for you? Is that 9?" He's like, I said 9 or 10. He's like, "Oh, I think it's 11." Like,
It's like 14. We
And
did
I'm
the
not like trying to lowball them either. It's just like I actually don't know. I can't keep track, but I guess it comes out as me busting his chops a little bit too.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, my
But you
broadcast
have
partner
to.
and I, yeah, you have to. I mean, my broadcast partner and I were talking like, okay, out of the 14 you've won, if we could ask Coach Waters, which one like means the most? Is it the first? Is it the eighth? Is it the ninth? It's like
Yeah,
for crying out loud, the numbers just keep going up and up. But I
it's
digress. It's crazy. I want to go back really quick because you talking about the players that have now, like you said, you have to make up for those points somehow. And Old Saybrook, and let's be honest, small school, it's not like you're picking from. I mean, I saw a tweet because I try to follow as many programs as I can. There's tryouts for some kids, to my recollection, or some programs I've been told have 100, 200, 300. They have a bunch of kids try out. Old Saybrook, it's a little bit different. And I know that, and I don't know if you saw this, but Valley Regional for girls basketball, they're not having a season this year because they don't have the numbers. So the reason why I come to that with you is that because of the number situation, which I know a lot of programs have to deal with. How tough is that for you as far as a head coach, knowing that, okay, I'm not going to have that big litter to pick from, but I'm just hoping to have enough kids that want to love the game and will put in the work on and off the court.
it's a challenge, right? The toughest part is so you hit the nail on the head. But the other point I'd like to make is we now have some kids that want to focus on just one sport. So you've already taken a sample size that's pretty small. It gets a little bit smaller because you're going to have guys that are going to focus on baseball or focus on football or focus on soccer, whatever it is that they want to focus on. That's where that gets me as a coach. The other side of that is we had 29 yesterday. A couple kids were sick. We had 25, 26 today at practice. What that tells me is to have those numbers,
Mm-hmm.
we'll take that because you just mentioned the small school, the guys who want to just focus on a sport, which is fine. Like I understand, but it's tough to recruit in your own building to try to get guys to come out, no matter how you phrase it. It's a different world than, when we were in school. It's kind of like what you did. Like you were always playing a sport regardless of the season.
Yeah.
And with that, you had 20, like I said, 29 yesterday, 25, 26 today. I think that speaks a lot to the guys that are in the program that can speak to the culture. You're drawing some numbers, you're drawing some guys. Guys want to learn. Guys want to play for you. We have a whole new coaching staff this year. Our JV coach went to be John Panone's assistant coach because Brady Sheffield got the old Lime job. And then our freshman coach, Alan Steckloff, got the Westbrook head coaching job.
Yeah.
But we're really like, it's a different look. It's a different team, different program this year.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, that mystery before, that's part of that joy that comes in that. So
You mentioned Coach Pannone, and it's funny because I talked to him before the championship game, and when he told me that his gym, I guess there's a logo in the gym that is, I think it's the home of champions, the house of champions, and it's crazy when he said that to me because having them in your conference, I think is awesome, right? I mean, their softball program has been good for a number of years. Obviously, the basketball pro. I mean, Pannone. I mean, come on now. Let's be honest. What he did at Villanova, the whole night. I won't go on with that. But just and that's just one program. And then you talk about obviously with Old Saybrook. I know Portland has been very good the last couple of years. I think you guys lost to them in the semis, if I remember right.
yes.
And I'm forgetting other programs as well, and I apologize. But the point is, the Shoreline Conference, I feel like maybe gets forgotten, kind of like the Pequot for football, because it's like the Pequot is all the way up there, and then the Shoreline Conference is all the way down there. So people tend to forget about it. And my question is, why?
That's a great question. And you just look at Cromwell going through, handling teams in the state tournament, having success.
Yeah.
Right. So like that was a battle they had against Griswold High School, who was loaded this past year at Waterford High School. So there you go, an ECC host, right? In the ECC, with the schools of choice and the size schools that they have and just the variety of schools, So guys in that area don't necessarily see a team like Cromwell. Like, what are they going to give you? They play like a CCC team, but they're in the shoreline. It's such like a mismatch. So it's cool to see, Cromwell doing what they do. You look at John, you tip your cap to him. You still want to beat him every time you take the floor with him, right? They're a tough out, man. They're tough. They just do things so well. The drive that he has in his guys, it's just so well coached, and it's a level of respect too. Now, if you said, hey, they're leaving for the CCC, I'd say let's pack it up. See you later. That's great. I'd be thrilled. 11 teams, we can do it. The Big East has no problem. But you look forward to Cromwell because they're a tough team. They give you that different dimension. So you're looking at the state tournament. You've played a team like Cromwell, so you have to adjust. We put it in a whole different offense after we played Cromwell last year because of how they play defensively. They're in your shorts. So we've had to change our strategy a little.
I want to talk about that too, because I know the big discussion, and I don't know how much you've been paying attention to for high school football, but the big debate has been playing games outside of your conference, right? The Pequot, the NVL, the place where I broadcast, and some of the tech teams do not do that. They stay within their league, and then the only time they play outside is during the semi, or not semis, but the quarters, the semis, and obviously the championships and the playoffs. Basketball, it's a little bit different. Everyone at least plays outside for a couple games. Some play a little bit more depending on scenarios and whatnot. For you, when you became the head coach, and obviously when you start to schedule games outside, what team you have to a certain degree with as far as coming back, and you can game plan like, okay, and you have a pretty good idea of around the league, around the state. Although you got to come up to the NVL sometime. Got to come. You're missing out.
Next year.
That would be awesome. I'll make sure I broadcast that game. When you are scheduling games and such, are you looking at, or potentially outside the league, are you looking at, okay, this is what I have returning. I want to test them against, I don't know, a Middletown or, a Kennedy, right, from the NBL. Do you want to see how they're going to be? And even win or lose, like you said with Cromwell, I want to see how they respond, because this team could potentially make a run in the tournament. What says you?
Right. You're exactly right. It starts with the scrimmages for us. We scrimmage hand Monday. So it's day 5? And we're already scrimmaging. And it's Daniel Hand.
Yeah.
Because Eco, a ton of respect for what he's doing.
Great dude.
Polson Jim is the host of the Shoreline Finals.
Okay.
So it's always for me, hey Jimmy, we're going to come to you, let us know when, but I want to get a scrimmage in so our guys can see different depth perception, that kind of thing, right? In the event, it ends the way we want, where the last game of our Shoreline season is in that gym, right? It starts there. So it's, to your point, you're playing against teams that are a little bit bigger, traditionally may have a little bit more success. But then, you also want to get some confidence too in those out of conference wins. So we scrimmage this year. We go Hand, Guilford, Bacon Academy, and Griswold.
Okay, that's good.
And then we roll into our conference schedule of Hale-Ray, Westbrook, Cogginchog. We go with those guys. Our out of conference is East Lyme. Okay. So again, a makeup of a Hand, a makeup of like a Morgan, a bigger Shoreline school, fundamental guys with some size, do a lot of things well. And now they have a new coach too.
Yep.
So East Lyme, Ledyard, we played them in a scrimmage last year. I liked that matchup in terms of they play a little bit like a Cromwell. They play a little bit of a different style.
I agree.
We could use that experience to help us not only in our in-season, but you got to focus on the state tournament. So you're playing teams like that. We have Norwich Tech as well. We picked them up. And then in our Christmas tournament with Morgan High School, that's going to be the second game of that is either Wheeler or Brantford. Brantford battled with Portland last year. I remember watching that game, and they played a little different. And I don't know much about them. So this is, okay, let's take a look. Let's go back, watch some film, see what they do, see if it's a little different. And if it's Wheeler, that's great. Stephen Bailey, their coach, we've known each other for a couple of years. We've played them the last 2 years, which has been great. We kind of know their guys and we know their style. It's a little bit different. And they've had some success as well. So it's pretty balanced in the most part, and it's definitely a challenge where guys like we're not playing for necessarily this game, win or loss. We're playing for the lesson that we're going to take from this game. That's the most important piece, and how we're going to change, how I got to change how I'm coaching. So that way, when we face an opponent like that down the road, we've been exposed to it. We've seen all of it.
You mentioned a couple coaches too. With Ledger, I know Coach Exum. I actually saw him a couple years ago in his first season, if I remember right. It was against Kennedy. I think it was in the quarterfinal. I could be wrong. I have to go back and look. But I was very impressed with how he coached that team, and they had some talented players. And
They
then
had a squad.
they had a very good squad, and they were big too, right? Kennedy was also, they could match them. That kind of was a very equal game. I know obviously Hand with Jimmy, Jimmy Buckets back in his day at Albertus.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He won many, many rings there, for Coach Oliver. And, it was cool to be able to see him because I went to school there as well. He was a grade below me, or
Okay.
whichever. Well, yeah, above me because I'd be below. He's older than me. But regardless, it's cool to see the young coaches kind of bringing the game to that next level. And you and I were talking about the growth of which the game has continued to grow more towards the 3-point line, away from guys having their back to the basket and using some of that post-up moves that they have. Coach, before I let you go really quick, if you can give a little bit of a preview of what this old Saybrook team could potentially be, like you said, different squad, maybe some different names, also different staff on, your coaching staff, but should be a fun year. So if you could give a quick preview, that'd be great.
We're gonna be fast. It's gonna be very pesky. We're gonna be in your face. We've had to change where, I mentioned before about the excitement of having like a true scorer in there. We don't necessarily have a true scorer. So, and everyone knows this, like, hey, let's acknowledge it. We got to find points. And how are we going to do that? We've got to defend. The shape that these guys are getting in, it's been a tough 2 days for them. They understand the big picture. So we're going to be stealing points from teams in different ways. I've had to change as a coach, to adjust, playing, coaching to the strengths of our guys. We're going to be pesky. We're going to steal points on you. It's going to be a full court game. We're going to try to get out of the half court as much as possible and just get the other coach to, keep sub. And we're going to be standing there. We're going to be ready to go. So it's just a different mentality, different DNA of defending and running. Similar to some of those schools that we've mentioned. That's how we have to play if we want to win the game.
Coach, best of luck this season. Hopefully I'll see you down the road, and maybe, who knows, maybe I'll see you during the playoff time. I know it's way down the road. Obviously, you got to play the games, but it'd be cool to be able to see old Saybrook as far as the basketball program. Have not seen many Shoreline games to my recollection, so it'd be pretty cool.
So now we got to come halfway. I'll get the NVL, but you got to see it. You got to call the game.
All right. Sounds good. Coach, appreciate you coming on.
Chris, appreciate you, man. Thank you.
To wrap things up here in the CT Sports Talent Show. So until next time, stay safe. Remember, CT stands for Connecticut Talent. I'm Jerry. Find them all. Enjoy the show, everybody, and be well.